You love me so, me so, me so. I know. You love me so, me so, me so. I know. You love me so, me so, me so.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Navigating Life with Viwe. We're back with another soul-centered conversation, and I sit never alone. I never converse alone, and I want to extend the same to you, that you too never walk alone. I want to welcome you officially to our Spring 2025. Okay. And in blooming and coming out with all our beauty, I sit here with two gentlemen. Okay, you've asked for it. You've said you want to hear more from, the other gender, because we've been featuring in the month of August a whole lot of lady-centered conversation. We've been having women here breaking the ground with some of the conversations that we haven't had before. Now we're here with gents, and I sit here once more with our navigating bay. Thank you for holding the fort when I wasn't around. Thank you so much. Thank you for.
It was quite.
No, I loved what you guys created. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, how was the Barbados by the
I shall not share. What was not shared on social media didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, we also sit here with another guest who also happens to be an entrepreneur, and he also happens to be a musician. But we are not here. In fact, let me first welcome you. And his name is Sylvester.
Yes, hi to everyone. I'm Sylvester Magqabaza, all the way from Cape Town. It feels good to be in East London.
I love that. Nyaiva, Sianizama, I keep telling you, Sianizama. We've brought the Western Cape to navigating life with Viwe. And for the purposes of sharing and growing and understanding, before I introduce today's topic, I know we all migrate from a common saying that is quite, I don't know, social media has repeated it a lot in recent times. I don't know what you guys are going to say, because I actually have two of them. But I think at the core of that is there's a whole lot of confusion as to what men stand for. I think from whatever that we migrated from, if we take it from the Garden of Eden to where we are now, I think a lot has happened in our evolution of understanding what your role is in society. So in introducing today's topic, our conversation is titled Boys to Men. And I want to start with my co-host. And I know that in the Xhosa tradition, there is an intentional transition from boyhood to manhood. But in terms of where we are with the later, which is the man, there's still a bit of, questions as far as that's concerned. And I want to maybe start with you, Mohit, to say, what is the significance, difference between what one would term a boy and what one would then term a man?
Yeah, I was getting on thin ice here. I have to explain myself a lot this December, since there'll be many of those men conferences.
Oh.
To say, how do you openly discuss something that we hold so dear and sacredly in our society? But let me try.
It's a safe space, guys. This is a safe space.
It's something that we are proud of. It's an age-old custom where it was necessary to recognize a transitional phase for a boy to become a man, obviously to be given responsibilities of a man, and to actually renounce his old ways, not necessarily to make a public announcement, but to actually see himself as somebody who has attained maturity and who has attained, the stature of a man. And he is guided and he is instructed to behave in a certain way. In other words, you can no longer do things in an irresponsible fashion. You've got to exercise a sense of maturity and a sense of compassion in what you do. Certain things are going to be apportioned to you as well.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
So it's like a camp where if someone is becoming a soldier, for instance,
they go
undergo endurance. So it's similar. It's a similar phase.
I
really,
understand.
To say, look, for you to actually demonstrate that you can withstand hardships and still regain and retain your compassion, you have to go through that rite of passage.
At least at the conceptual level, it sounds beautiful. I have a friend who likes to post all things controversial around men.
Right.
And I and I laugh because one of the things she usually says, "Atiba emngcwabeni wami ningawaphakela amadoda," which I actually find so interesting. Right? We having and before I come to you, Sylvester, there's a quote that says, the strength of a man's spirit depends on how much they can tolerate truth, and I believe that there is a bit of too much, I don't know how to call it, where truth is not said for what it is when you guys gather as men, right? Where there are certain codes and certain things that you guys tend to protect in protecting your manhood. I'll make an example. Go to indoda, aikali, and I just want to maybe find out from you that having heard my way to explain the process, how attached is that process of translation to this more responsible man, this man that's now spoken down to say, this is how a man behaves versus your old ways, which I suppose would be termed your boyish ways, But I want to maybe then ask you more directly, in your personal experience and in your views around man as a man, how much honesty do you guys have in terms of defining the tradition and making sure that what you guys do and speak to each other about is actually translated into living experiences? Or is it just a matter of tradition and then people still go on with their views as they do?
Okay, thank you for that. Well, I would start by establishing the facts that I'm quite influenced Western-wise while I'm being a traditional South African guy. So I've had to embrace views from different worlds, of which that is my approach in life.
Okay.
I remember in high school, we spoke about ideas move globally. That's what changes the world.
Yes.
So I grew up very open-minded. And again, with that being said, immediately when you mentioned Boys to Men, I was like, I can't resist but to say a bit of a line. We belong together.
Yeah.
And you know that I'm right. Why do you play with my heart? Why do you play with my mind? I'll stop it right there. So basically for me, being a man has
I love that, by the way.
The song.
You almost got me to a point where I forgot this was work. No, I don't cry easily. I just wanted to come in, but otherwise I was there with you. But yes, back at you.
Yeah. So I've always been open-minded. I don't allow my background, my family, whatever they set up, or the society I come from to really dictate how I should live my life. I just believe that I have this beauty of life that can unfold in many beautiful directions. So my manhood is not only dictated by my background as a Xhosa man. I totally respect that. I totally recognize that. I've practiced the whole scenario.
Yes.
But at the very same time, I think you mentioned something about crying. I remember one girlfriend at some point in my life, she actually taught me how to cry. And I really, really enjoyed that.
You enjoy crying?
I don't always cry. No. But she did something good.
I don't want, because we're not talking about how many times you cry.
Yes.
Say when you get to that point.
When I do.
Do you enjoy the fact that you don't have to hold back? You can just fall apart.
It's one of those precious, beautiful experiences. It doesn't always happen, but when it does happen, it's one of those special moments.
I love it. We want men that cry, guys.
Really?
And I think for me, if men cry, then it speaks to how vulnerable they can be. Because I think men are quite notorious for protecting their egos, right? Or am I asserting something you're not familiar with?
Yeah.
Can you come in there?
I've heard a lot of sentiments that men will appeal better to the society if they start showing their feminine or effeminate emotions.
Yeah.
I hear that, I get that, but I do not necessarily ascribe I still want to be a man, honestly, in a traditional sense. I was born of this world to this world, right? I'm influenced by the practices and the dictates of this world. I do not want to swim upstream, all right? But at the same time,
But I wonder.
the older you get as a man, the more you wear your heart on the sleeves. You can't hide anything because you just burst out. You just break into, tears.
I understand,
And,
but we don't want a flood of tears that's pushed, right?
absolutely. So you understand where I stand with this.
I want to
issue.
come in with
You can't make
something.
yourself-
I just want to come in with something regarding him. Obviously, this is a friend of mine. I gave him a call one night. I'm not sure if he's going to remember. Obviously, I'm not going to spill the beans, the details of what we're talking about. The man cried.
We'll take it outside. We'll take it outside.
And he cries more than me.
You look like a man that cries, though.
Yeah, he cries more than me.
Guys, no, that's not true. I'm not a crybaby.
Okay,
I'm not a crybaby.
We'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you how much of society informs who you are as a man.
So obviously in society, there is so much noise going on. If you don't know who you are and the principles that make you, the values that make you, you can easily be lost in society.
True.
So for me, whatever those principles are, I might not have the time to sort of like articulate them, but they come from love. Whatever I hear, whatever is suggested, whatever is advised in terms of how a man should be, if it doesn't align with those principles and that foundation of love, I obviously reject it. I'm obviously open-minded. One can always improve. There's always that room. But my life will always be moving in the direction of love and those values and principles I hold.
I love that. I love that. I wish we could applaud him. And that sounded very beautiful.
Yeah.
But besides it sounding beautiful, I'm actually speaking on behalf of a navigator. I was like, okay, well, we hear you, But let's see you practically reject some of the stereotypes we find toxic. What are the ones that Bayazim Nandung I don't subscribe to this one. I don't subscribe to this one. I don't subscribe to this one. Because we have to break it down. Ultimately, I mean, I think it. We can all sound clever in terms of saying I will align with it if it's centered on love and so on. But let's come back to how we know men to be like. What are the ones that you like? The stereotypes where you just like, look, I don't subscribe to this one because I don't find value in it and I don't see how it benefits anybody. And certainly, I don't want to be identified as somebody who does that.
Yeah. No, actually, I think the society does have an idea. Sometimes they can be very prescriptive on the how part. I think you and I had a conversation the other day.
Yes.
You were asking whether men do call each other out.
Yeah.
I will say absolutely, men do call each other out. It's just in the how part. When you go and trumpet another man's indiscretions in public, that's not calling someone out. That's shaming somebody. So in our private corners and spaces, it may be in the absence of women, it may be in the absence of society. We quietly sequester one another and say, but Mfogabao, this is not...
Take me into confidence. What do you usually call people out for? What are these stereotypes that there's anchored beliefs around what it means to be a man?
Men have always called each other out. There would be there would be, in a village setting, for instance, there would be some guy who is being a delinquent, who is being a menace to society. They would call a family meeting. Who heads those discussions? It's men. They are actually beating him back to life. It's just that maybe the world has changed so much now. We've got social media, right? And people are in the habit of writing,
Stuff
paragraphs
down.
and paragraphs, shaming and naming somebody. And then we consider that calling somebody out. So it's something that I would want, for instance, cite as an example of, it's a bad example of what this society is dictating. Men should behave in a certain way. Then they can derive from that or lack of it that men don't call each other out.
No, because the troubles, and I don't think it's a statement that's not founded on anything where we feel like men maybe are not effective in calling each other out. Maybe let's not say you guys aren't calling each other out. Maybe let's say whatever methods you guys use to call each other out, whether it's calling each other out in the corners, does not seem to have a direct effect on change behavior, on how we interact or how we receive treatment from men, however one can put it, And I think that's where the concern is coming from. I don't think it's necessarily a matter of saying, no, we want to make it public,
Okay.
when people call things out in different platforms, so to speak. But I actually want to come back to you with this same question, because I think you started it by saying, look, you don't subscribe to everything out there that says men should. You subscribe to things that align with who you are, and you also carry yourself in a very intentional way of making sure that what you do is aligned to who you are and love and so on, which is beautiful. But what are the stereotypes that by Sylvester and will speak like this? I don't subscribe to that, as a man. And I actually want it to be called out for what it is. So what do you reject about the stereotypes that define African black men to be?
I would say number one, they usually use the term hopeless romantica. I wouldn't use hopeless. I would still say I'm old-fashioned, about it. So I've always protected women in their absence, in my spaces. And obviously as men, there's a lot that we discuss about women. And in a sense that, all the folks we grew up with who influenced us, I remember being young, growing up in PE, where this man loves me, I admire him, and would leave his wife who just prepared food for us and would go to his side chick. And to him, it was normal. For me, being a young boy, I was like, something is not right in this picture. One day I'm not going to be like this.
I see.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course, it didn't mean that life became easy for me, that temptations are not out there.
Oh.
Trust me.
So I want to get you right there. That temptations are perhaps there for all men.
Yes.
But it's in how you respond to the temptation.
Exactly. Exactly.
I see.
Some have completely lost consciousness when it comes to it. Some of us, trust me, we did fall for certain temptations, although it's not something you approve and agree with. However, you still remember, I cannot carry on like this. This is not how I've been brought up, if you know what I'm saying. So I've always, when I'm with my guys, I will always advocate for no cheating, if you know what I'm saying. I remember
So you are a no cheating type of guy.
Yes.
Love that.
I'm a one-woman man.
I'm a one man, woman. I don't know.
Yeah. That beautiful song. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm perfect, but it's something I always pursue in my life.
I understand.
So I challenge my friends who are married and who are not married. If any point you sort of like entertaining things that may destroy your family, I'm that guy who's going to challenge you. My guys who are married, they will tell you about that.
I love that. All men cheat. That's a question to you.
Is that a fact? Oh, okay.
It's a
That's
question
a question.
to you.
Sorry.
All men cheat. Because let me give context to the question. Let me give context to the question. And I'm going to draw from what he's just said. Right? Yeah. That in your adult life, it's a spectrum. It starts from whenever you started to date.
Yeah.
Whether you got married or not to now. You will hear, and I think for me, this is where it's confusing for men generally. Do men not cheat, or do men strive not to cheat? I'll tell you why. He's just said now, at a certain point, he was tempted. So the life story of whoever he cheated on is that this man is a cheater. Right? Am I wrong?
Correct.
And when I asked you in the previous interview whether or not you cheated, right? We later discovered, whether it was not for sex or not, I'm not interested in that debate. But in somebody else's story, you are a cheater. So when we are out there in society, somebody stands up and says, all men cheat. I mean, how do you respond to that? Do you accept it, or do you refuse? Okay.
I don't accept it.
Okay.
I don't accept it.
Okay.
Firstly, I believe that the statement, it may be valid though it might sound.
Valid scientifically.
To the person that utters that statement.
Yeah.
I still feel it comes from a position of hurt and experience. Right? You may have dated one guy, he cheated on you. You dated the second guy, he cheated on you. You dated a third guy, he cheated on you. Now, based on your wide experience of dating 3 guys out of billions and billions of them, you come with a very lovely conclusion that all men cheat.
I disagree with you.
there are men who you might disagree for different reasons. but
I'll let
the
you know.
bottom
I'll
line
let you
is-
finish first.
The bottom line is you are throwing a blanket approach and corralling men into one identity.
Oh.
Right? So there are men who cheat off, absolutely. But there are men, and I've met many of them, who don't cheat on their wives, who don't cheat on their girlfriends, who don't cheat on their women.
Navigators,
just-
where do we find these men?
Honestly, you
No,
will- you will find them.
I'm caught up in half because, well, I agree that I think every man that one gets together with needs to be given the full opportunity to actually date you without necessarily carrying the stereotypes for other men or on behalf of him in his earlier life or with another person, right? But I also, for me, it's like a double, I don't know what you call it, because for me, I'm also thinking as I'm seated here, but hey, but ubuchitile nje in your previous relationship, you didn't cheat on this one. Why can't you be called a cheat?
Okay, so a once-off experience
And
must
also-
be my label permanently.
And also, the expectation that I should date 1 billion people to establish this fact is also for me just a bit far-fetched because, I mean, it contradicts what I think society wants women to do because also we're not expected to see every man for us to conclude. But the few that we actually see, if they cheat, how does that not enable me to call out men as cheaters in their entirety?
I think for me personally, I have a challenge with labels.
I
Yes, I have a challenge with labels. You can always separate between behavior and the person.
Ah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So if at the end of the day, there's a marketing going on out there promoting that men are cheaters, obviously you are sort of disarming yourselves as women to get an opportunity to be with good men.
Oh,
I love
Because
that.
you obviously spreading that message, and that's what young girls are gonna believe. And what they will obviously do, they'll be like, you know what, I'm just gonna mess around as well because out there in society there aren't good men.
I
if
love
you know what
that.
I'm saying.
I love that.
Yeah.
Ultra, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I think what you've just done, you've just assisted, and I hope for you too as navigators, that sometimes we ought not to fight the man, but the wrongdoing, the behavior. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the crime is cheating and not the person. Basically, that's what you're saying, right?
Correct?
Am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right, I love it. Let's move along with this conversation. And I want to actually tie it to how men are perceived also in society. Guys, break this down for me. There's an issue. I mean, this I think ties in very closely to the perception that men have got egos that they try and protect.
Yeah.
And we can see it in other aspects of lives where people acquire things and, respect is given to the one who has more. You've got more money, then people respect you, your ego is inflated, and you are landlord in society. But before we even go outside and acquire things, there is what God has endowed you with. What decides? Uyabona ke ngoku ngiyesilaheni nansi size ye-sausage kama wethu. Yabo? Nansi Russian, right? Okay. Size. Does size matter? And I'm not saying size matter in the context of a sexual intercourse, but in terms of how it defines you as a man. And then I'm asking, I don't know your respective sizes, guys, ne? And I hope you will be honest here.
of course you don't.
I have no interest in knowing, but your actual sizes. But can you also just kill this for me? Does size matter to you as a person in terms of how it identifies you as a man?
Look, I'm very much in touch with my childhood. I'll always go back to my childhood. Not from a context of having not dealt with issues, but from a very positive space. I remember very well being a young boy. One of the traumas you have that you're going to carry until you are probably mature is the fact that, is it big enough?
That's right.
Is it going to be? Yeah. Trust me.
Boy?
I mean, you're already exposed. Let me give you a bit of my background. I grew up at Joksville, the informal settlements. Everything is open. if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, there is no order of some sort. You are exposed to this. You could be knocking by the neighbor and you'd find people naked. So you are already exposed to a lot of things at a very early age. And these are the discussions you have as boys, right? Even when you pee as boys,
Yes.
the jokes start, if you know what I'm saying. But the context is, at that age, it's something you carry as a burden. I wonder.
So can I just break you there? So as a boy, your wonder is this thing gonna actually go large enough for you to feel proud about it?
Yes.
Oh, so
yes. You would have more self-esteem if it's big at an early age and you can see, hey, this thing is big. But if it's not, trust me, I don't care. I'm a very confident guy. At that age, before you are mature, it does kind of like you question how it's going to overall be.
And not only, I think boys are just experimental species, and sometimes would go pee, like you're saying,
Hey guys,
and
you want
would
to
be measuring
competition?
whose stream is going to go
distant.
there furthest. All right. Sometimes there would even be a toilet dump.
My goodness.
Yeah. And basically, you're trying to see if your stream can actually jump over that dip.
Yeah.
So it's not only the structure of the male organ itself, but it's
the
its functionality.
Yeah.
Yes, what it can possibly do. For instance, there is that thing that as boys we used to pride ourselves in. If when you are pulling the skin of your manhood, does it expose your shaft? This is not a family program. Is it a family program? But anyway, we are post 40, so we can talk about these things openly. So my mom, I can deal with my mom's shoutings later.
No, I'm afraid for my dad.
And my dad screamed.
But it's
screamed.
okay.
So if it's not doing that yet, you'd be the butt of the joke. You understand? So we've always tried to turn to one another this way or that way. I went to a high school, boys' hostel. We used to shower together. There would always be, modes of delight every time we see a guy who is more endowed than the rest. You understand? Oh. But I'm saying, look, just like limbs and everything else, we are all not the same. Some people are smaller than others. Some people are larger than others, shorter than others, taller than others. Stop trying to measure up.
No, but that's a conversation we should be having with boys at the young age. I think that's where the intervention is. No, because I think to start them off then, I think that's navigators fine. We've found with this competitiveness and this ego start inflating. Sausage and Viennas and trying to create peer competitions. And I think a lot in terms of men's development, I think it starts there, right? Yeah. All right. I think we've just had this full conversation about where it starts and so on and so on, right? And I mean, look, it's surprising. I learned for the first time that actually it comes from a long time ago. I thought it's a big thing when you guys become adults. But I also know that, ladies have not been kind all the time to men when it comes to sizes. Right? I think ladies have also sort of used them to fight back at times. You hurt me, I'm going to tell the whole world. Or let's move on to lento ingasebenziyo, right? And I understand that you guys are middle-aged men in a world where we've never existed in before, where the pressures are coming from everywhere. And then, what's the pressure like to have perfect performance right now or to any earlier experience that you will remember? How's the pressure there as a man? Because I'll almost suggest that for women, yes, I mean, there's pressure for us to some degree, but that's not the subject of today's discussion. And I want to find out from you guys. Mawet, pressure to perform and get it up.
It's always there. Yeah. Look, when you are much younger, you're a stallion. Right?
You're energetic.
You're a stallion.
Okay.
You're energetic.
Yeah, you're within your great elements.
Absolutely. Your vitals are quite proper. You have a clean bill of health. And then you're obviously a young stud, and you see one woman you've eyed for marriage, and you get married, and it's fresh and new,
Yeah.
clean. And then you have kids, you know, there's responsibility, and then there's school fees, and then there's bond to pay, cars and everything else. And then you've got to
It
be
moves south.
ahead of your own family.
Okay.
You start experiencing pressure at work, you know, to move up the ladder, upward mobility, you know, and then you are in your 30s this time around. And then you start, you know, experiencing pressure that can actually not allow a proper flow of blood. You know,
He's so clinical with this thing.
Yeah.
Pressure results in you not being erect.
My point,
At times where you are required to be.
or even when you are erect, your erection is not as strong as what it used to be. 10 years ago.
Oh, shame, man.
But now, if you've been keeping the same woman who understands your strengths and weaknesses, it's not a problem. But if you're going to go, you know, exposing yourself to this and that and the other woman, you are likely to run into problems.
I'm
Because
looking
you are
at
trying to prove yourself a man and you're doing it the wrong way, you are going to get the insults that, you know, are due to you if you know yourself to be having that shortcoming. But my point is there's always pressure, not pressure per se, but sometimes it's self-engineered because of your previous and past encounters. There are certain things that just went south when they was not supposed to go south. Yes, ma'am.
I am a woman in my middle age, and I remember this is not just me. I wish the other ladies were here, right? Where I think as we age, we become more assertive in our sexuality because I think see color from the different end, you know, where we are shy and so on. Now you're saying in your 30s when you are decliner, what is likely to come up in conversations with women that of that age and that are coming into their 40s is that's when they're starting to actually understand themselves,
Yes.
and that are more assertive in knowing what they want. Ne? So I'm trying to test what you just said now, that if you stay with one woman, that woman will understand, but the downside only starts when you start going outside, right? And my question, and I know you're not a woman, you know, but I mean, what I'm trying to test for sure is the validity there. You know, would any one woman forego? Because I want us to get that clarity.
All right, maybe let me correct my statement.
Yes.
And I'm not speaking on behalf of women. All right, but I'm just saying women do have our backs on certain things. I do understand that they can, you know, congregate in their own spaces and share their frustrations, all right? But it doesn't mean there is a temptation to step outside, right?
Not always.
It's always from a safety, a safe space to say, okay, guys, how can we get it better, you know? And then there would be, you know, wisdom that comes from a friend. So, you know, there's men's health here and there. There's you know, supplements here and there and so on and so forth. You understand? So there's always wise counsel that we're hoping for. Yeah.
Sylvester, thank you, Maud. In your own personal struggles, at moments where you felt pressure to perform, and this thing was just going south, you know, when you wanted, what are some of the things you explored to assist you in such cases?
Okay. Let me first qualify.
Guys, defense is the first sign of war. The minute you defend, I want to say, look, you can qualify. I'll allow you, but I just want primarily for me to understand what sort of interventions assisted in those very trying times where we just like, Kanen, I've got to do this. But engqondweni yami korengi invoice yami ezingabhatalwayo, right? So what are some of the assistance that you sought and how did it go?
I don't think I really qualify for your question, and hence I said I wanted to qualify, right? Reason being is in the recent in the recent I've never been in a space where I'm married to someone. It's been a case of hit and run, if you know what I'm saying. And I'm not saying I'm proud of that. I'm not saying I'm proud of that. Now, talking about qualifying it, one is I'm currently in a space in my life, obviously for quite some time, where you practice abstaining.
Okay.
But I wasn't born last night.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you something based on the pressure to perform.
Yeah.
Feedback is one of the most tremendous things.
Okay.
Which which comes to men not really being about people of feedback when it comes to women. My self-esteem have been boosted by women because you had a conversation and you had a feedback and you were open to talk about things. And trust me, yes, there are two types of feedback. There's praise and then there's also developmental feedback. Developmental feedback is not,
of improvement.
It's not so nice. But if you listen carefully, if you listen to her, you can reach a point where you eventually get the feedback of praise. And that feedback from more than one woman really boosts your confidence. And it helps you navigate.
Guys, both of you can sit here with me and tell me that the interventions that you've had were the conversation and feedback and so on, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
I know there's space for it. But Kalok, we also know you guys are very exploratory.
Viwe, also in self-discovery. Shock.
This is something I asked a male friend of mine. And he took, So let me create context so that we understand what interventions worked for you, right? In fact, before I do, are we both aware, meaning the two of you, of things like blue pills, Viagras? Yeah. Right, okay. So we're claiming non-exposure to them.
For me personally, none. I've not been in a point where it's like I have to go that route.
Bless you, Sylvester. I do not wish that upon you, bro. I do not wish that upon you. But sometimes it doesn't just come out of experimentation. It comes from
need.
No, doctor's orders or doctor's recommendations.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love
prescription.
that. I love that.
Prescription. Because, you're a man, you're comfortable talking to another man. You tell him, listen, I have this kind of problem. This is how it happened. Okay, so he asks you questions. And leading questions for that matter. And obviously, he's a subject matter expert, and then he just recommends something that will help you gain your confidence.
I understand. Yeah. So, Sylvester, you being unmarried, Kwaba hit and run back, right? Which, of course, are not here. I'm not mentioning them to characterize you as somebody who's irresponsible. Please, I hope you understand. I'm merely quoting you verbatim because that's what you said earlier. But Kwaba hit and run back, I understand the context is not one where there's an intention to explore something longer. It's just to say, so I think with that, kuba khona mhlambe ne-unfamiliarity with that partner, at least in the long term. Can you take me to a place where you sort of took this person, but is not responding, whether the feedback you're getting that would lead you on to a full experience, right? And what was your remedy in that situation? Was it to completely say, look, asiyeke, or was it to say, I'm supposed to continue with this because otherwise, I will be perceived as a failure or as keep you guys.
Yeah.
Where you did something just to make sure that we protect stigma.
To be honest with you, I think we need to be honest about this. With those hit and runs, it's someone you're not committed with.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like, I don't care what you're going to think when we part ways. And I think we know the selfishness of us as men. Again, when I say these things, I'm not saying them because I'm proud of them. We just get satisfied easily. And it's kind of like I had my side of the pie, fun, and it's like whatever you're thinking beyond this.
As I was saying,
qualifying.
I understand.
That's one way of looking at it, which is also true. Right? Another way of looking at it is if you are going to have, a one day only or a one night only. Sometimes you want to stamp your authority. And you make an effort so that you keep...
airport, feedback.
You go and drink your concoction. Yeah, you go and drink a concoction that is not going to... You don't go naturally. You go with
AK-47s.
There's that as well.
Wow.
There's that as well.
Guys, we are understanding men here, and I'm also just wowed. But anyway, you spoke earlier about ugqirha and prescribing and so on. And I love that because it just means to the ego is not too large to identify that there is a problem when there is a problem. How easy was that? Just deciding, you know what, ndiyohlala phambi kogqirha ndiyomxelela into yobana, hey doc, azikhiphi fireworks, and they're not giving the full show. Bangathi yeza, uyabo? How easy was you deciding ukuthi yazi kunengxaki apha?
Oh, very easy. Very easy. There are certain things that I'm very, very, very jealous about. If something doesn't go okay, I don't care. I've got to get it right. Egos aside.
Love that.
No. I break down the walls because this is my life. This is my future, my past, and my present. You understand? So if anything main switch, basically, what happens when the main switch is actually off? You have to make sure that you get it back up. So you will be desperate. You will do everything in the book.
Everything possible.
But then obviously you don't want to risk it. By not risking it, you go to a doctor. All right. So for me, I don't know, maybe for some men, they might be shy talking about these things. But for me, I'm very conscious of my body and its ailments.
And its functionality.
It's okay if they ail. But there are certain things, if they ail and deteriorate in shape or form,
then it's a problem. I understand.
I've actually never shared this, and I'm actually considering while I'm trying to express the idea. I'm coming from an angle where Umawetu probably has a background in terms of doctors. Me and doctors are not the best of friends in terms of going or consulting. You know what I'm saying? In any means, it would be a case where maybe I'm dating someone and I'm having fever or flu and she's like, go to the doctor. That's when I would typically go to the doctor. I don't always jump and go to the doctor. There's actually an experience here which was obviously relating, to the private of things. And for some reason, I had to travel. And trust me, I could have still attended the doctor when I was abroad. But I didn't.
When you're not even in South Africa. So
yes. So I kinda, that name Nyamezeli.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go beyond what I should. Trust me.
Let's do it.
And the process, it had to be like a natural process for me to heal. I'm not going to state what that was.
Okay, but I
should
want to check, but was it relating to your machine?
Yes.
Okay, because the reason why I'm raising this question is not necessarily to call you out on your respective experiences, but I also know there's a pocket of men who feel like I'm not going to go there. There was something that was circulating on social media. Oh my goodness, if the men's clinic was run by public government, amanesi bezawukhwaza yeni nabanento eziwayo kuleyo aba banezi ziboleyo ngaphi. So that's what maybe creates a barrier for men to seek help, And I want to come back to you with what you've said. Yes, you had traveled, you were not in South Africa, so maybe was that the only factor that you were considering, or you also felt even if ubulapha, it was not going to be something you explore into yoncedo ngoba awufuni umuntu uzabe bamba into yakho? Or
trust me, it was not going to be easy.
Let's talk about that. What was going to be difficult?
Okay, one, I do work with clinics and hospitals. I'm kind of literally known, obviously more the Cape Town side of the world.
Yes.
So one would regard that. But secondly, as I said, I don't really have a culture of running to the doctor
in
whenever there's something. Yes. And I can honestly say, sitting here, I try, he knows very well as a friend, I try to do things accordingly as much as I can. But that one aspect, my relationship with the doctor, be it any otherwise, from flu to the private, especially, I wouldn't just jump like that. Yeah. I'm being honest. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him.
Go for your annual checkups. Go for your, what's the equivalent of pap smear?
Prostate
checks. Do that. There is no disgrace in doing those things. It is understood that life deteriorates at some point or another. Whether I would like to admit this fact or not, you are going to come across a situation of awakening in your life when you discover certain things that you've never actually known or expected to happen. So there's always help at your doorstep. So it is up to you. If you don't want to be
Yeah, I understand.
a song of drunkards, so to speak, or you don't want to be scorned at. You want to protect your own, keep your
Ego.
dignity intact and your ego. By all means, then stay with your problem. I wouldn't want to stay with a problem.
I love that. I hope we have more men that are willing to have people handle their situations and their missions and get the help they need to make sure that their things are properly functioning. I think because you guys are also known to have egos, the minute ingasebenzi, it could actually come out in other ways from men, where suddenly you're not the nice person that you were used to be when everything was functional. But that's just my opinion. Let's treat this trend, gents. I know it's not something new, but I know currently also there's men now, whilst their counterparts are traveling to Turkey for the BBLs and the other parts of their body, men are going there for increasing length, increasing girths, and so on.
Are they?
Yes, there is. There is that trend.
Okay.
But it's not something new because I want to say, as much as there is now this influx of patients into Turkey, for certain things on their bodies. Kade siyahamba at downtowns. Doesn't matter where you are.
Yes.
Mohammed Banbani, selling a concoction,
Yes.
from 5 centimeters to 30 centimeters. And I'm asking you as middle-aged men, because midlife crisis, you've had the same size. I think it stops growing at around 18, right?
Yeah,
I haven't had
so.
one. I haven't had one before. But I think around 18, that's your final size, right? And having used that machine till now, what's the pressure like for you to suddenly, either consider length or...
I honestly don't know. For me, I have a dogma that be confident in what you're carrying. It doesn't matter what size it is. If it measures up, if you've been with other guys in the shower and you realized how endowed how well endowed they are and how in short supply you are. No. Be confident in what you are carrying.
That's your gun.
And also,
that's your weapon.
And also, she's seen one bigger than yours before. So it's also really.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh.
I love that. And I also just want to maybe test this one on you, Sylvester. And I'll call you. Guys, this is just from what he said earlier on. I'm not giving him a new identity, Yeah. Let's say today you've had a series of these, what did he call them again? One night or hit and go.
Yeah, hit and run.
There's something, and I think it also speaks to how men think. If you're dating a woman, let us assume you're dating this woman now, right? And I want to tie it to what Umawetu just whispered to us publicly, to say, Oksalayo, whoever you have, they've seen different before. What's this obsession about men that, or if then men tend to lose themselves a girlfriend with somebody else. If you men understand that in any event, she's been with somebody else, what's this in that space where men lose it, out of finding that their partners maybe fell into cheating for some reason?
I wouldn't say it really comes from a size situation or matter. It just comes back to the fragility of a man's ego. If I were to put it, I'm not sure if that lands to you.
I'm listening.
Yeah. As much as we appear to be strong and we present ourselves to be strong, it then speaks to the fact that, giving credit to women are stronger. They can almost handle anything. But us, those things that women can handle, we can't really handle them like that one. Again, it's not about maybe the type of size you're comparing yourself with that guy. It's like, my treasure, someone touched my treasure, I can't take that anymore.
But someone touched it before you. Before you came in.
If you deeply engage yourself as a man in that, it can mess you up. You have to renew your mind and try to disengage yourself from that reality that happened before you. If you know what I'm saying.
We all have
reactions before.
Trust me,
realities before.
If we're debating it and we share each other's past, it looks like to me it tends to be more sensitive for me to hear about your past versus you hearing about my past as a man. So that's where it gets
We
tricky.
haven't-
And I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's fair. But it looks
I
like we
like
get to
that.
be more. Yeah.
I like that because I think that's the journey that's ahead of you, man. You know, I think if I can say anything, I think however society was sorted initially, that put women at the bottom of the value chain is what made us strong. I still feel like there is a lot that you protect about this ego that we also find problematic. You know, we all agree it's a problematic thing, but I think you're happy to define by right for Nina, forgetting that that's a journey of pain that we came to accept that this man that I'm with could have slept with somebody else. It hurts the same. But I think you guys have protected your ego so much that you accept it as creation, whereas it is a process of endurance from the women's perspective. And that's the journey ahead of men, I propose.
Hang on, Viwe. I do not suppose that as a 44-year-old man, a woman that I'm likely to meet today has never been seen or touched before.
Exactly.
That's silly.
That we can agree about.
Absolutely. But if I am with a woman currently that I'm devoted to, and I suppose she is devoted to me, and then during the run or the duration of our relationship, she sees somebody else, that would harm me big time. And I know it would harm her as well if I did the same. So from me, I'm understanding it from that point of view. But to actually come and state here that, you know, someone's history has a lot to do with whether or not I will proceed with that person. What does it matter if they are with me and fully devoted to me currently?
I understand.
Am I getting it right?
I understand. Look, for me, I was just trying to point you guys to what I think is a flaw in how you guys look at things.
Okay.
I don't enjoy the definition of women as being strong because I think for me, you sort of omit to understand how they got there. Right?
Okay.
You omit to understand that it was not a journey of roses that women, whether it was supported by culture or religion or any other thing, but it was an oppressive act where women were forced to accept it was not a choice for us. And yet I think when we turn the role around where we're saying, look, I'm with Umawetu married, but I had a moment of weakness with Sylvester, and Umawetu, it's a deal breaker for him, forgetting that I've also enjoyed it with him personally, that he's been elsewhere. You know, it's a deal breaker. And now when you come to define it, it's like, I am ego. You know, it's sensitive, yet women are strong. I'm saying this is the journey I'm suggesting.
Let's hold on to the proviso. He said he does not suppose it is a fair thing. It is not a fair thing.
You know,
But in truth...
But even calling it as, fair or not, is not yet the journey. You guys haven't embarked on it. You've just stood there and defined whether it's fair or not, whether it's what. I'm saying there is work for men ahead, and that work means also understanding when your ego is up and understanding how to tame it. That's the work that's ahead. You know? I'm not saying it doesn't hurt when your partner cheats. It hurts the same. But this definition of women being stronger to carry it omits to understand that we were forced to carry it. Society expected so
it is not natural?
It's not natural. It's a
I'm
myth
loving that
it is
perspective.
natural.
I'm learning something.
It is a myth that is natural. It's adaptive behavior, you know, that we've had to adjust to in a society that feeds women.
But for me, I don't see it as something that is enforced. I see it as something that is a natural quality which I envy.
It's not.
Because I do not possess.
It's not.
I wish I could.
I'm killing that stereotype here, navigators.
It's not really
it is
a
not
stereotype. It's
natural.
just admission to my own flaws. That toe to toe with a woman, I think a woman fares better than I do in this aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we
But
can
anyway.
debate it for too long, I suppose, as we are going to close. And we're still going for all these things that we don't understand around men. We want to understand them. And I just want to, you know, we've emancipated women to some degree. I know we're not entirely happy with where we are in terms of representation as women in key structures and key places and so on. But there is a grouping of women, guys, who are at least participating in that space. So here's a woman who takes home a bigger check than you. Are you staying or are you going?
For me, I think the fact that she earns more has got no bearing on the relationship, the roles, and the tech team that we have to become. But immediately we have to start giving regard to our brackets when we have to employ any decision making at home, or when we have to justify our, unruly behavior. Then it is a problem. You cannot throw money into problems, and you cannot buy an underhanded behavior. You cannot buy your way into an underhanded behavior. So for me, it should not really be a problem, as long as I understand my responsibilities as a man in terms of, I know we might jostle on this one because you're sitting where you're sitting, because I know you.
No.
The fact that I'm a head of the family, I'm a provider, I'm a protector, should never escape me anytime. It doesn't matter if a woman ends above me. I should never, ever abdicate that responsibility.
I understand.
That's my belief.
I understand.
Absolutely.
So
I should never use her any more than I do as a justification for her to do more in the house. If she does so, it should be out of her own volition, not because I demand that she does so.
I understand. I still think, and I suggest that there's still more work for men to do. And your work is honestly just on understanding your makeup and understanding how to tame the egos. But before I conclude on that one, it's just a suggestion, as I said. Because from what he's saying is that you cannot buy status in the relationship as a woman who's earning more. He's still the provider. He still understands his role and so on. But you also, on the other side of the coin, get men who will use their same money, right? I see you nodding. Who will use their same money to support behaviors that are not progressive. Whether uzawuba ngumuntu who now go as abantwana konga, young girls, right? Using the same medium that you are saying endlini is not supposed to be used to create hierarchy. And yet on the other side, you've got a wife that's sleeping at home, and the same man is using currency to support his extra whatever life that he has from home, right? But the basic unit that's being used here to trade, that we are refusing for the women to ever rise on. The women can't rise on the fact that actually, I make more money here. So if there are decisions concerning A, B, C, D, and F, I should lead those decisions, And yet men can do the same. And I want you to come in on that, because I see injustice in how we place women that are of a better paycheck, so to speak, versus men when they are of better means.
Yeah. I think for me, I might not answer you directly on the last part of your question. Maybe I would come back to the first question you asked him.
Yeah.
Probably I'll come back to that one. There are two factors for me personally. One is understanding me, what defines me. And also going back to my background. I grew up as a guy who had access to women and the attention coming. It's humbling, to be honest. It's humbling.
Summer boy.
And guess what that did? Of course, I just understood. I remember this one guy when we were growing up. I was talking to the girl. He brought the keys. Like, hey, your father asked me to give you the keys so that you can park the car. So he was trying to use this idea that my father has a car, although I didn't have a father who had a car, if you know what I'm saying. So I never played my cards in that manner, and I'm not claiming to be perfect. So as a result, I grew up with a great self-esteem when it comes to dealing with women. Either she has so much more than me or not. Now, the second factor, it's the woman. It's how she makes you feel as a man. I dealt also with women who really have more than me, but they've never sort of like put that in front of my face, if you know what I'm saying. And that has really boosted my confidence going forward in life, dealing with women who have more than me. Yeah. And it has caused me not to have stereotype in that sense. So I personally never have a problem. Instead, I get to be inspired to just become a better man.
Iconic.
I spoke about capacity. Sometimes if whatever life throws at me and this woman earns more than me and she strived more than me, then to me, I'm getting capacity to be a better man instead of competing with her, if you know what I'm saying. And if humility is part of the picture, regardless of what we are making, to me, that's the perfect thing. If she has humility, intelligence, wealth, then come, baby, let's see what we can grow together. But coming back quickly to your last question, it's always been an observation, obviously, how us as men would use things as well to sort of like lure young ladies and etc. It's something I don't agree with.
Yeah.
And again, it boils down to what I said. What is the background? Have you always been a guy? Maybe you didn't get attention. Now you have stuff.
Or maybe there's size issues and you're compensating financially.
Yes. Some guys typically cannot speak with women. They don't know how to charm or connect with women. And they always think they should jump and use things to connect with women. But as I was saying, I'm saying this as humble as I can. Having had the attention of women growing up, it has just made life beautiful for me that I don't have to,
I love that.
Just be me.
I love that. Won't you guys please, I know you're doing something in that space and I do want you to come in just for a minute, that I think what has happened in society is that we've left men behind. I think we've left space, we haven't created enough spaces for men to have conversations such as this. And for me, I'm just drawing it from some of the things that came out from this conversation. What work do you think is still possible amongst you guys, for you to structurally, because now I'm distrusting this thing of you guys calling each other out as Koni. I don't think it has been effective. It has given us better men in society. I don't really think so, but it's my suggestion and opinion. But if you were to be intentional, we are intentional as women. I just returned from an event yesterday where we were speaking and empowering women. I've had a series of those in August where I was invited as well. But I think that just goes to show the intention, but that is also geared towards balancing out what was historically an imbalance in terms of women empowerment and so on. But also as men, I feel like kuningi. Where are you guys going to talk about what happens? Like compare your size of your things as boys. What do you think can still be done? Because there's work in that space I would like to suggest.
Obviously, I think to me it's about structures. For me personally, I'm sort of involved in two structures, men structures. One being at a church, we have something called Mighty Men of Valor. And this is where we speak about spiritual matters in a sense of impacting the natural aspect and approach in life. There you have a pastor, you have leaders, you have these guys you account to who remind you, hey, these are the principles, these are the truths we believe in, and this is how we should hold ourselves in society. That for me works because we can actually talk, we can even pray together and cry together, if you know what I'm saying. Then the other one, it's more secular, where I've initiated a hike for men. But fundamental, our tradition is to hike, but there's many things that we plan to do in that sense.
Are you hiking fully clothed or?
Yeah, fully.
I've seen things on the social media.
No, not the controversial one. Not the controversial one.
So you guys are fully dressed. Okay.
And obviously we are not really focusing on being so intense about our physicality. We treat it for our psychological safety, emotional space where we can actually talk as men, literally about anything. We come as a group. Sometimes we have a specific topic. Sometimes spontaneously we'll just talk about things as a group, but also maybe as pairs as we're going along the way. It could be tags, it could be family, it could be wives. I'm not a married guy. A guy would be like, hey, Miara, my wife, man, and stuff like that. So it's that space. Now, that space alone has its own science in terms of the nature, the trees, and etc. Yeah, it feeds something to you by the time you go back home. And this is what I always encourage the guys, or we encourage each other. Guys, let's go back to our homes as better men. Now, trust me, in that particular group, I have very controversial guys who are implicated on so many levels, be it cheating, drinking, and etc. Versus the other group I have at church. I respect that group. You pretty much have more of perfect guys who do their best to uphold things. But this side, it's guys who are all over the show in society. But for me personally, I get to experience those different worlds
understand.
and find a way to influence and being influenced and learning from the guys as well. So we have that space. As I was saying, we talk about every single thing, especially emotional aspect, psychologically, and so on. We obviously treat it as a social as well. Sometimes after hiking, we go for a braai. The guys will drink their stuff. I'll drink my juice because I don't touch alcohol. So basically, those are the spaces for me.
I understand. Thank you so much for your contribution. I think we each have a role. I think, well, to my exclusion, because I'm not a man, I can only create such platforms here. But I think men also need to take this struggle upon themselves to say, how do we make sure that we take every man along? Because what Sylvester is doing would exclude some men who don't go to church and would exclude some of those who are not physically inclined, you know. Right? But I'm trying to say, but it's wonderful. I mean, you're doing wonderful work. I hope by my defining your exclusions, you don't, it doesn't come across as though I'm taking anything away from the wonderful work that you're involved in. I'm just simply challenging other male navigators to say, in your respective spaces, there has to be conversations that happen in terms of how we take the boy child into proper manhood, you know, so that it's not just like event when they are 18, where they just get bombarded with, this is what it means to be a man. That it's a journey that begins in Ngela Klesha, where you guys are comparing your little machines, cute machines, you know, into adulting. And I hope more men can get on board with advancing the plight of boys to men. And I feel like you have something to say. Please come on.
No, I was just saying, I like what Sylvester is saying.
Yeah.
That is more a formalized structure
Yes.
of congregating men and getting them to actually reflect on matters of common interest. But we can do it in semi-formal structure, even in informal structure. We can do it in our spaces when we braai over rugby games. We always have something to talk about. It doesn't have to be in a formal setting. But every time you have a chance to influence one man, two men, three boys, you know, in those conversations, this is where we have to drill it down amongst ourselves.
100%.
All right? Again, Viwe, the society has an opinion on what men have done and how they have been put in a corner where they have a dim view of men, which we accept. But if I drive a Mercedes-Benz, I drive a BMW, don't view this in a negative sense. Only BMW can have an instruction manual on how to operate their product, all right? Only Mercedes-Benz can actually have a set of, know-how on how to operate that manual. So similarly with men, they can influence one another because they've had common journeys, common interests. But we need not to be only inward-looking, to be outward-looking and solicit external voices like females, for instance. They judge us by the, fruits of our behavior. If we're making them safe, we will know. If we're not making them safe, we will know. All right.
That's why we're taking your size then, if they feel unsafe around you and unprotected. 30 seconds each, guys, just for us to wrap it up. Closing remarks.
Yeah, based on the topic, I read a poem when I was growing up. It really impacted me. A boy is a father of a man. So it starts with that boy. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah. Closing remarks, Mawechi.
All I can say, let us continue to lead, to love, to have compassion, and to be genuine.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel navigators, there's still more to be explored as far as how we perceive men and how men exist within our societies and how they perceive themselves, because I think that when you understand how you function, your makeup, you naturally become a better person for the world. I think more needs to be done. I think we have made the era of maybe focusing on women empowerment to the exclusion of men and bringing them along. I still believe that if we make and create spaces for us to win and be empowered, but not to the exclusion entirely of men, we will all create a world where we can coexist peacefully, at least more peacefully than we are existing currently. I think the fights that are there are a challenge for all of us to sort out our living conditions in society. So as we sign out today, it's been a very wonderful conversation, very insightful. Thank you so much. I got to understand where it starts, and I think that was one enlightening moment for me We also understood why, as kids, it starts there. I hope as navigators raising sons, we were enlightened as well. I hope we take the plight to make sure that we balance out, man. I think when we converse and we talk, there's a chance that we might win. And it's a wrap.
I know